Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guest, with your host, Christina Nitchman.
This is your host, Christina Nitchman. Each week, Savvy runs weekly broadcasts providing entrepreneurs and successful individuals a platform to express their dreams, hopes, lessons learned, expertise, and wisdom with the world. Our guest today is Wayne Kelly, founder of HCXperience, bringing a voice to patients around the globe with their revolutionary healthcare data collection cloud software. With their team's vast experience, it became evident that the current available patient satisfaction survey solution was antiquated at best, still using snail mail and paper surveys to have a mere 34% return rate. These statistics alone show that there was a great need for a new solution of real-time patient feedback. HCXperience Inc. exists for the sole purpose to improve healthcare by providing healthcare professionals of all sorts comprehensive survey software that their patients can complete at their appointments. To find out more and to get HCXperience for your practice today, go to HCXpinc.com. Hi, Wayne. Welcome back to Savvy Central Radio. How are you today?
Hey, great, Christina. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. It's been quite some time since you've been out here on Savvy. I think it was about 2 years ago that you came out when you first started your business, and Savvy was a brand spanking new business as well. So tell us a little bit about, for our audience who missed the first episode together, a little bit about your business and yourself and how you got to where you are today with HCXperience.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. First of all, Christina, thanks for having me back. Like you said, it's been a couple years, and, I really like what you did with the place. All your accomplishments are really starting to add up. That's impressive. Yeah, no problem, and the coffee is delicious as usual. But myself, I started collecting healthcare data over 15 years ago now. And, so I've been in the business for some time. When you think of 15 years, it doesn't sound that long, but in healthcare and computer or IT, it's quite a long time. I've seen so many different changes. And during that time, I started with a very small company. It was called Healthcare Data Incorporated. That was then purchased by Thomson, who purchased Reuters, and Thomson Reuters was purchased, and so on and so on. You know how that works in American business. And so like I said, I've seen it all as far as data collection and healthcare, from the beginning where we used to send out software on CDs and, printed the software manuals and so forth. And I wrote those, which was ridiculous because nobody uses that stuff, especially guys. We don't look at the instructions for crying out. And, so everything in between, watching the collection, being part of it, it's been amazing, but also frustrating because early on felt it was more about the patient, in healthcare. We're collecting data to improve patient care. And that felt great. And I felt like I was in the right business unit. And as the years continued, and I'm not going to get on this subject very much because I know it's kind of a tight subject today, but like I said, from the beginning, patient care, let's improve patient care. And then CMS gets involved, which is, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And then it starts to become about, the data collection starts to become about making the grade and not so much about patient improvement. And then a couple years ago, government introduced value-based purchasing, which then takes a portion of patient feedback and this data to offer reimbursement or penalize our hospitals based on this information. So like I said, it got convoluted. Just there's a gray area now. Okay.
Yeah. Is it similar to the grading system that the FDA uses for restaurants and stuff when they put up the ABC and that sort of thing in restaurants? Is that kind of like the grade system they were doing in the hospitals?
I'll say yes to that for a simplified answer. Recently, I believe CMS came out with a 5-star rating for their acute care hospitals. So, let's say yes, like I said, to simplify that. For myself and personally, it was amazing to be part of that growth, watching the data collection aspect of it, but also frustrating as I saw the vision or the focus change from the patient to the dollar. And then in the area that I was in, collecting the performance data and patient satisfaction, which we now call patient experience, and that information, it seemed like everything started to progress in healthcare, from sending the applications out on CDs and manuals in paper to now web-based and cloud-based applications with no paper involved. So everything, it seems, have started to progress in healthcare except the collection of patient feedback data and, the information that is vital today. Because, this is a patient, we'll get to that as our questions continue. So for myself, this was an area that I did not see improve over the course of 10 to 15 years. So in 2012, I just kind of left the rat race and started HCXP to develop an improved method to collect data at point of care, especially relative to patient feedback.
And I really appreciate that because I'd been to the doctor and the hospitals plenty of times. And interestingly, I've never been given a form or asked how my experiences went. And I've had some pretty yucky experiences at hospitals. Mm-hmm. So it's really, really necessary to empower the patient and also to empower the doctors, the practitioners, and the hospitals to better serve their patients.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that, because we all go to the doctor. Every one of us, we're patients. Even doctors are patients, let's face it. And the reason you did not get a survey or a form at that point is because they only hand them out randomly. And here again, I don't want to go back to the value-based purchasing whole aspect of that because that's where the dollars and cents and it might sidetrack our audience a little bit. But all those forms that do get sent out, a portion of that data that is supposed to be returned offers reimbursement to our hospitals. Yeah. And that's the area that is missing because the data is so poor. Even those folks, like you mentioned, you're a patient, you never got a form. Those of us who do get them, it's by random, it's a random sample. They only mail those to patients randomly. They take that feedback from a random sample of patients and try to determine the whole landscape of the patient feedback or patient satisfaction of that operation. It simply doesn't make sense in today's day and age.
Absolutely. No, it doesn't. Explain for those in our audience how HCXperience helps doctors and patients in the real world. How does it work?
Sure. No, that's a great question. For example, when you're in let's say a healthcare organization or a facility of any type, when you're a patient and you're being seen, that's when we're most vulnerable, honestly, as an individual, as a human. So you expect great care. And if you don't get it, you want an opportunity to express that. Like I shared in a different audience, we're only human. Many of us, if we get a cold plate at a restaurant, we're going to complain about it. But if we get a great dinner, we're not going back to the chef and shaking his hand and congratulating him on a job well done because we expect that. And we expect the same from our healthcare providers. So in a physician's office, or right now we're in a number of locations. Recently, we just started in ambulatory surgical centers, which is very fun. And the interesting thing here is they're using our application on iPads, approaching every patient at the time of, post-service. It's an ambulatory surgical, so it's outpatient surgical. After their procedure, they're offered a tablet and a group of questions and comments that we selected as a whole, as a group, myself and their corporate officers. They now approach each patient with the same questionnaire, collecting at all of their locations, and they're able to benchmark their daily performance by positive, negative response, and top box. Not only that, but their return rate is astronomical. In healthcare, those paper surveys that we get, only 32% of the nation send back. And that type of data is irrelevant in any industry. You cannot take 32% of any whole and try to make sense of it. But our healthcare government is trying to.
Absolutely, Wayne. I could totally see why HCXperience is important more than ever for the healthcare industry. Explain a little bit about your recent partnership with Radius Health Services.
Sure. I'll mention another one, as I mentioned before, as our questions go on. But Radius is a great partnership for us because in many, and we're not unique as a company. I'm not going to pretend there's not other companies out there trying to do what we're doing now, but I believe our approach and our mission is different. But with Radius, as another partner, they provide the piece of the puzzle that's missing in many companies like ours. In fact, even ours before this partnership. So with our company, we provide the tools and the experience. We have all this experience, probably over 100 years experience with the folks on my team at this point in data collection and healthcare. So we have all this experience providing tools to collect data, providing reports, analyzing the reports, offering the different types of reports, building applications and whatever. Radius comes in, and now they can take the reports that we offer and personalize the approach taking this data and making sense of it for the individual healthcare organization. So not only do we offer the report, now we offer a group or a service that makes sense of that report and takes the service one step further. Now we have this data. What do we do with it? And how can we make it profitable to our healthcare organization? That's what Radius provides for us.
Wow. So just to clarify, when they take your overall information from all the patients, they consolidate it and then put it in a way that makes sense for the doctors and the practitioners and the hospitals and facilities. Do they also offer suggestions on how to implement anything?
Oh, they're a hands-on program. They'll do on-site or off-site, service. So it's quite a good venture for both of our parties, and it also expands our footprint. As you know, I do virtual offices with all of my partners, and they have partners on the East Coast, but they're maintained out of Chicago. So that just expands our network, our vision or visibility even greater.
Yeah. Now, we have quite a few folks listening in who have alternative healthcare practices and such, and even some doctors. So how can they get in on board and actually have this as part of their practice and get HCXperience and Radius working within their practice?
Just HCXpinc.com. You can call me or whatever. We have a phone number. But we do have an office line, 707-654-HCXP. And that will go to our office line and someone will point you in the right direction.
Now people hear there's a way to better help their patients. What's your overall hope for your company in positively impacting the healthcare industry? What would you like to see 10 years down the road? I
would like to see, basically, like I said, we're not unique, but I believe we're reinventing the wheel. Early on, like I said, early 2000s, we were collecting data to improve patient care. Well, now we're collecting data for the dollar, but we need to improve patient care because our patients are now smarter. We didn't have a moment to discuss this, but healthcare is now a patient-centric, consumer-driven marketplace where patients are no longer not informed. They have a choice. There's urgent care is popping up at every corner. There's retail doctors they can go to. Heck, they could get everything they need at Walmart. How do our doctors and providers stay competitive? How do they stay afloat? The standalones or the doctor groups, or just the personal care provider, your physician. Well, they can use a service like ours to not only better their care, improve office efficiencies. One of the things, I mentioned with some of the mandated surveys, some of us get post-discharge, or the questions are also mandated, and they don't pertain to every practice, or they don't offer the opportunity to improve, at least I don't believe, the functions or the items that need to be improved within each practice. They'll offer the standard questions. How was the communication with doctors? How communication with nurses? Was your pain managed? Etc. But for myself as a patient, much of my frustration comes into play even before I meet a doctor. Was my appointment handled correctly? When I went for my blood, was my blood tests ready on time, or not ready on time, but was my charts in place so that I could get my blood test in time? Or what was the cleanliness? How the temperature, etc. The noise, if you're in an inpatient environment, noise and pollution, or how filthy the joint is something. We just started in emergency departments as well. And one of my worst experiences, or one of my experiences, a patient was in an emergency room and there was dried up blood everywhere.
Well,
that's not going to be asked on a standard survey. But for me, I didn't want to touch anything.
Oh, heck. And I would hope it would be a good idea on some of these surveys to have a comment section where is there anything we missed that you'd like to comment on and let us know about?
Exactly.
So that they could let us know random things that happened that maybe we missed in one of the questions, like that, dried up blood everywhere. Because I think I've heard from a number of people, and it was an EMT worker who actually said to my friend, hey, if you ever get hurt, because my friend burnt himself, he got a second-degree burn, and he said, make sure you keep that well covered because there's a lot of germs, and if you want to come out sick, going to the hospital with all those germs and an open wound is a good place to do it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. When I go to the hospital, and I'm not a complete germaphobe, I don't want everybody to think that, but if I go there, I'm looking for the hand sanitizers because I know that. I've been in the industry long enough. In fact, hand sanitation or hand hygiene is a huge topic in patient care or patient feedback data. Many surveys ask that question because they want the patient to see that the care provider is taking care of their hands for decrease increased opportunity for infection. So there's a number of different things, and that's what our application HCXP offers. The provider can take from a library of questions, but they can also build surveys or questionnaires that pertain to their practice and the time or the need. Right now, like I mentioned, we have the ambulatory surgical group, the ED department. That group started to use our application for patient callbacks. So the doctor will use our application, open up a questionnaire, call the patient at post-discharge, and fill out the survey or the questionnaire themselves. So they have immediate feedback comparison reports. You mentioned the comments section is a great opportunity not only to hear complaints about the patient, but also the positive things about their visit or their stay. Was there an employee or a nurse or a doctor that you would like to promote or recommend, or recognize for their effort? And there's a lot of folks that mention that. Like I said, without the opportunity at a restaurant, we're not going to go back and shake the chef's hand.
Yeah, that's a good point. The patient is like a consumer and a very educated consumer. So they are looking for the perfect doctor. And if a doctor doesn't treat them right or they don't have a good experience, they're going to look elsewhere. Now, I want to also discuss with you how patients are also becoming educated, and is it making it harder for doctors and hospitals because they come in thinking they already know what they need and how they need it because stuff online and such.
It's a great segue into what I wanted to mention. Patients are educated, but are they educated correctly? I believe we can provide as not only a tool for doctors to improve their efficiencies internally at the office or practice level or corporate level even, so they can increase their efficiencies, they can improve their practices or performance by asking the right questions at the right time, retrieving the right data, but not only that, they can use that data for PR by promoting themselves accurately and correctly with accurate data, not data that's provided by, let's say, a Health Grades or a Rate MD or any one of those web pages out there. For example, those web pages I mentioned, Christine, I could stop here right now. We're talking about pull up a doctor from any state and leave feedback as if I was a patient there. And now that data is publicly displayed as real data and real representation of what those facilities have offered. There's been practices that have been questioned because those types of web pages or opportunities also offer an opportunity to pad the stats, so to speak, or exploit a practice. Because, like I said, you could have, my goodness, I could have a very small practice and ask every one of my family members to go to Health Grades and say something nice about it. So by approaching the patient at point of care, not only do we get real data at the right time, but we get data that we can act on, not react on. Data that's offered by those paper surveys or that awful phone call you get at the dinner table wanting to ask you 50 questions, that only offers our providers data that is reaction able. And reaction able data doesn't offer an opportunity or a true opportunity to improve patient care.
And what I'm loving about what I'm hearing here is that often, I know for myself, I felt very disempowered in the hospitals and healthcare facilities because I felt like I was being processed. I didn't feel like I really cared. I felt like I was a machine thrown on the table. But this really gives you the opportunity for you to partner with your doctor and for the doctor to partner with the patient and to really form a bond that you can both work together to your general good health.
No, I agree. And like you said, it is kind of a partnership because I believe you asked prior, how do I hope to positively impact the healthcare industry? And like you mentioned, it is a type of partnership because we offer this opportunity for any healthcare provider. We've been approached by chiropractors and dentists. Currently we're in a number of different types of location, long-term acute cares, IP rehabs, ambulatory surgical, ER, been approached by urgent cares. But I believe we built a system that can be used in any type of healthcare organization, even if it's wellness or any of the new age medicine. If you're improving your healthcare, you want to measure how you're doing, because if you don't measure it, how can you improve it?
Yeah. And you don't know what the patient's needs are. You don't know how you can better serve them.
Exactly.
And so this leads me to another question I'm really excited to hear about because you've now been in operation for over 2 years. I want to find out what are some of the wonderful success stories of HCXperience. Share some of them with us.
Oh, sure. No, that's great. 2 years, it's been great. There's mistakes that have been made, but if you don't make mistakes, you're not trying. Am I right?
You're not learning. That's right.
Exactly. So in the past 2 years, we now have 17 or 18 long-term acute care hospitals across the nation, a couple inpatient rehabs. Like I mentioned before, we just started with a group of ambulatory surgical centers. I believe that. And the great thing about that is the increased return rate I'm seeing with all of these opportunities in every location. And as I mentioned earlier, I believe 32% return is the national standard for those paper surveys. This group of ambulatory surgical centers, by approaching the patient at point of care, showing an opportunity to engage the patient one last time, demonstrating concern for their care, asking, hey, take this moment to give us information, improve your care, they're getting a 92% return right now. And they're only a couple weeks in, but 92% return is insane numbers when you're considering that data as a whole and valuable data. So, like I said, those are some of our recent success stories, or the success stories over the past year. We have over 150 user accounts now, so there's 150 people logging in from all over the country. I mentioned Radius Health Services, one of our first and large or most grateful partnerships is with Prista Corporation in Austin, Texas. They offer, and I may have mentioned that in our I don't know, I was talking to them a couple years ago as well. Their application, it's a data share agreement. Their application offers performance improvement and risk management where we have patient experience. So our mutual clients can use both of our services to collect data and then view all of the reports in one system.
Wow. That's so cool. And what I got from you before is that this isn't just for hospitals or MDs. This is also for chiropractors, for health spas, psychotherapists, psychiatrists. I mean, it doesn't matter where you are in the healthcare arena. You can really be served by using your product, because everyone wants to serve their patient the best way possible. And the best way to do that is to get real-time feedback. So what is your big vision for your business in the next several months or years?
Oh, that's another good question, because, and right now, my vision currently for the next immediate future is rebrand and expand.
Ooh, yeah, I love that. I love that. We're doing that next year too. Rebrand and expand.
All right, so that's us right now. We're rebranding and we're expanding. We're hoping to come out with version 2.0 in the next few months. And like I had mentioned, one of the things you learn in business is you will make mistakes, but you learn by those mistakes. For a year, we lost nearly a year by going off in another direction, referring to ourselves as the Survey Cloud. Well, we're rebranding back to our origin and our experience of being healthcare professionals. We are the healthcare experience. So we're going back to HCXP. So by rebranding, we're also going to expand. Some of the distribution partnership I did not speak of are with a couple of CSMs. We're also expanding our sales and marketing teams by offering 50-50 distribution. You have the opportunity as a healthcare professional to market and sell, create your own clientele using our application. So I'm training Miss Williams in Phoenix, Arizona, Miss Gupta in Chicago. There's some new distribution centers. Right now, we have that data share agreement with Prista in Austin. So here again, that's our footprint expanding. So we have representatives in all these different states currently. So like I said, rebrand, expand. That's our current objective.
I love that. It's always about growth. I think people in the industry often think, looking at some of the hugest corporation and businesses that are hugely successful, like Google or Amazon, they say, oh, wow, look at them. But they don't see them from their beginnings. Like I think I heard Amazon was operating in his garage.
Right.
So the beginnings were not pretty. Failure is only a failure if you stop and you don't keep stretching towards success. That's when failure becomes an absolute failure. But if you make mistakes, things aren't working, course correction, get back on that horse, and you will succeed if you keep on your target.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm a big motivational guy. I read positive verses, so I believe it's very important to continue to be positive and stay focused on your objective. Surround yourself by positive people. Mm-hmm. And if you do so and you don't get sidetracked, you'll complete your objective.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what I also like that you just said about your rebranding and expanding is that Savvy did the same idea as you. Is we decided, hey, there's a lot of our great clients who have referred other people to us, So I said, hey, if they're going to refer their friend because they like their experience with us, well, then I'm going to give them a piece of the pie. So I told people, hey, 20%, whatever we get from a friend of yours that you send our way, you get 20%.
That's right.
So that's the same thing you're doing. You're offering even better, 50-50 for any win-win situation of a practitioner who wants to help get, HCXP out there to all different practitioners and also get a piece of the pie for themselves.
Absolutely. But my vision is global, and I didn't share. We already have some opportunity working in Germany and Europe. I have a COO for my overseas operation. His name is Bodo. He's living in Brazil. So for the past 2 years, we've also re-engineered our entire application in German. Mm-hmm. So we're ready to market in Germany, working with German Trade and Invest to go over there. So can you imagine one real-time patient feedback comparison database in like continents or like healthcare industries? It could be so valuable to everyone involved.
No, it is valuable and it's absolutely necessary. It's time, it's needed, it's long overdue, and I'm so grateful you guys are doing that. We are heading to the end of our time together. Before we leave, is there any last words you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I started mentioning some things, about you just got to surround yourself with the positive, stay on track. Things I'm saying are probably cliche because I read that stuff every day, but it's okay to look backwards or look back at things that you may have done that didn't work. It's okay to look back, but don't stare. So keep looking forward, keep moving forward, and stay on track with your vision, your objective. Don't allow others to sidetrack you. But that's just a small thing. And I did want to mention, we talked about this. I'll say a quick word about this. You're promoting a movie that really touches home with me, and I forget, it's is it The American Addict?
Yes, it's called American Addict 2, The Big Lie by Dr. Gregory A. Smith.
And the only reason I'm saying this is because it does touch home with me. I recommend everybody, share the link on your webpage. I know you already do, Christina, but everybody watch this because there's so much truth involved with this movie, and it touches my heart because years ago I lost a man who was a brother to me, and to prescription drugs. He took his own life as he fought depression with the knowledge that the cocktail of prescription drugs his clinical doctors had him on, if offered with alcohol, he could lose his life. And during his depression, he chose to do that. So watch the movie. And just one last comment on that last thing we shared. The reason that movie hits it hits hard with me, but the reason it's so relevant today, and this is such a joy in my life, today I get to share my cousin and my brother's son's wedding. So today's communication on the radio, along with that wedding and what we just spoke of, is so relevant today in my life, and I appreciate you sharing this time with me.
Thank you so much, Wayne, for sharing that information and for all the wisdom you brought to our audience today. Everyone, please go to HCXpinc.com. And thank you again, Wayne, for coming to Savvy Central Radio.
All righty. Take care.
Join our mailing list today by texting Savvy Radio to find out about upcoming guests and events and receive a free gift, how podcasting can help increase sales and influence in your business.
Savvy Central Radio is home to over 100,000 listeners per month globally and runs in syndication on 8 AM and FM platforms, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out more about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out to the world, call 718 area code 713-2289 or email at savvycentralradio@gmail.com.